Thanks for joining us on our last of our Journeying Through Lent devotions. Today we are actually covering quite a large passage, and so I'm not going to read it all to you, but I do encourage you to go and take a few minutes to read it. You can look it up on the Bible app, on YouVersion. You could look it up on Bible Gateway, on the internet, or maybe you've got a paper Bible and you want to go and look it up. But I encourage you to go and read Matthew chapter 27, verses 32 through to Matthew chapter 28, verse 10. But I just today want to share a quick reflection with us, a thought or two that I've had on this long passage. You see, our passage today covers not only the crucifixion of Jesus, but also his resurrection. It covers people turning up at the tomb and finding the tomb empty. The thing that we think about on Easter Sunday, and we don't want to jump over crucifixion. We don't want to just ignore that, particularly today on Good Friday. We want to remember that as well. Just a couple of days ago, Abby was helping us to think about Jesus' trial and how he dealt with that trial. But the outcome of that trial was his crucifixion. It was his death. And Jesus chose to go to the cross. He allowed it to happen. And that just seems a little bit bonkers, really, doesn't it? But Jesus allowed it to happen because of the love that he has for us. The love that he has for me, the love that he has for you. Jesus went to that cross to deal with what needed dealt with so that we could enter again into relationship with the Father. But when Jesus dies on the cross, he says it is finished. He dies, it says in the scriptures that he gives up his spirit. The temple curtain is torn in two, a picture of the fact that there's now no need for a separation between God and people. But yet the people who are witnessing this don't really understand. All they see is the guy that they were following, the guy they put their hope in, is now no longer there. He's died, just like others before him. Others that they thought were going to lead them out of the troubles that they had, away from being ruled by the Romans. He's died. He's been crucified. And yet it wasn't over. Jesus' words, that is finished, says he's dealt with what needs to be dealt with. But for us, it's not done at that point. For the disciples, it wasn't over at that point. You see, I can imagine being one of those disciples and hearing the words, it is finished, and thinking, yeah, it's done. My hope is gone. I'm finished. But Jesus wasn't telling his disciples that they were finished. He was saying the work that needed to happen to rebuild the relationship, to restore it, that is finished. But now that relationship can go on. As I was reading these verses, I was really struck towards the end of them, where in Matthew 28, so from verse 8 it says, so this is after the women have encountered the angel and found out that Jesus isn't in the tomb. And it says, verse 7, it says, then go quickly and tell his disciples, he is risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I have told you. So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid yet filled with joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them. Greetings, he said. They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me. I'm just struck by the women's response. First of all, they encounter an angel who says, go and tell the disciples that Jesus isn't here. He's risen from the dead. And they're full of joy because they've heard that Jesus has risen, but of course they're still full of fear. They knew the authorities were going to be mad that Jesus wasn't there anymore. They don't know if anybody's going to believe them when they try to tell them what's happened. but they choose to go through the fear. Not to just completely ignore it, but they choose to not let it rule what they do. And so they still choose to go and tell people. And as they go, they encounter Jesus for themselves. And as they meet with Jesus, their response isn't, oh, nice to see you. Their response is to fall down on their knees and to worship him. I wonder, as we go about this Easter, as we kind of finish up our journey through Lent, if you have encountered Jesus along the way, and what your response to him is. If you meet with Jesus, what is your response to him? Is your response simply a shrug of the shoulders? Or is your response like these women who just fell down on their knees and worshipped? They knew that Jesus had died and had risen again. They didn't fully understand all the ins and the outs of it all. I'm pretty sure they didn't quite comprehend everything that it meant. There was still things to be understood and explained along the way. They didn't know how everybody else around them was going to react. But they allowed themselves just to fall down in worship. Do you know, maybe we start to overanalyze how people around us respond to this story, to the Easter story. We start to think, what are my friends thinking? What are my parents thinking? What about other people that I know? How are they going to respond to me if I say I believe this? When actually our response should be one of worship. So maybe that's what we need to do today as we finish up our journey through Lent, is to put aside thoughts of what other people are going to say, how other people are going to react, is to choose to go through the fear of maybe how those people are going to respond, and to choose instead to just fall down on our knees in worship of Jesus this Easter weekend.